Okay, so Dave Stewart up here, right? Dave, I've known for actually a good few years. Dave has joined my coaching program many years ago and learned a whole bunch about marketing, and he's cutting edge, right? He didn't stop learning marketing with me. He's learned with a lot of marketing coaches all over the world. And so Dave and I have a definite affinity that we've learned the art of getting attention both online and offline. And Dave went deep cuts on technology. And what I've loved watching about Dave is not only did he learn, like many people that I went in those 7,500 hours, I sat in a lot of seminars like this. I've spent way more hours sitting there looking this way than I've spent on stages looking that way. And I know that I was sitting beside a whole bunch of people that would have learnt the same stuff as Dave and didn't go and do anything with it. So what Dave went and did is he built an app. I don't know if he built it or he engaged a builder to build an app, but that's his tech savvy or lack thereof. I have no idea what it would take to do either one. But Dave went and took action in that online world and built himself a killer app, because that's where this game is being played, right? You know, we're not sitting there lovingly thumbing through the real estate section of the Courier Mail anymore, like we were in 2003 when I was kind of selling and stuff. You know, we're not doing that. So the game is being played online, so Dave went and learnt that online world. I mean, you saw Brian and the guys talk about that online world. You need to be there. This is no more playtime. You know, you look, I was in Sydney at the premiere of Star Wars, and I was sitting there at 11:45 at night, and everyone was walking down the street just looking at their stupid phone at quarter to midnight, because I was there for the midnight screening. We're not looking at the phone waiting for it to be a telephone. We're using it to be on Facebook, to be on apps, and to be doing shit, right? So you need to be part of this online world, and Dave's mastered it. So he's going to share with you an app. But now before we do, what I'm going to share with you right now is I'm going to give you some stuff. Who reckons a copy of those guys' recordings with those scripts and dialogues slowed down would be a great thing? Give me a show of hands. Yeah, cool. Okay. It's good. Everyone wants it. Good. That means my sales are going to be good. You better frickin' spend up. But here's where I'm going to give you something. For everyone who I notice online, and I've got my team watching, everyone who I notice online who takes a kick-ass photo throughout the course of these 2 days, whether it's me on stage doing that or something, right? Or you catch me in a corridor in an in-depth conversation with Kingsley, and if you snap an intimate moment where Kingsley's in tears because of how much I've helped him and his family with their real estate business, you capture that, you capture something about this event and you put it online and my team notices it. You might be saying, oh, what hashtag? I don't know. I don't even know what hashtag is. Get my attention. Tag me in. Put it in a real estate group. You get my attention. You get a copy of the guys' talk that we just did, no cost. How about that? Deal? Anyone to get a photo? Anyone. Now, the best one, and that wasn't a rounding enough of applause, so you all are now -10 on my scale. Grumpy, no carbs. No. The best one gets a copy of the entire event that we'll be selling for I don't know how much, but all of it, every step of it. Plus, I'm going to give you the last event I did with Gary Vaynerchuk. It was called Real Estate Armageddon. It was Gary Vaynerchuk. It was 3 days of just awesomeness. We do sell that every day for $300. The best one, I'm going to give a copy of that to as well in its entirety. So, but everyone wins something if you just do it. Now, do you see what I'm doing there? I'm getting you guys to spread the love. You know, you tag me in, so all my people who didn't come get to see this event going on. So I'm buying your cooperation. So I'm shamelessly bribing you, but it's a win for you, it's a win for me. Happy days? Fair deal? Great. Dave Stewart has mastered similarly the online world. I'm not going to rave on about how awesome he is, because he is. He's nailed some areas of expertise that I could only hope of nailing. And in fact, I never will, because you know what? When I hang out with people who've already nailed it, I don't have to nail it. I just defer to experts like Dave. I know Chris Gilmore's taken up his use and really revolutionised his buyer management system, utilising the tech that Dave has developed, and to the point where if Chris says it's awesome, I'm saying then the dude, come along, let's share it. So Dave Stewart, come on up, my man, give it up. Market Buy is his app, and he's going to share you a whole lot about it. Thanks, man. Thanks, appreciate you, bud.
Good morning, everyone. I tell you what, he's put a challenge out for a killer photo. I reckon I've got the best one. Everyone smile for me. There we go. We're going to tag that one in. We'll see how we go with that. All right. So as Glenn said, you know, I've to give you a little bit of an idea of where I've come from and who I am, because many of you wouldn't have heard of me. I'm kind of work behind the scenes in real estate these days. But to give you a bit of an idea, I'm a career real estate agent. So I'm in my 21st year of real estate. I started way back in the late 90s before the internet was really a thing. Prior to that, I was a university dropout, and I say that really, really kindly because I didn't so much drop out as they kicked me out. And then as a 19-year-old, what do you do when you haven't got a job and university said they don't want you? I come and landed on the Gold Coast for a couple of years, and like most people do on the Gold Coast, I spent probably double what I earned and found myself in a mountain of debt. So I landed myself back in Melbourne, and I had no job, no qualifications, and no idea what I was going to do. It was really funny what one of the guys from the States said, because I saw exactly the same ad, and it was in a local paper. It said, "No experience necessary, earn 100 grand a year in real estate sales." And I thought, hell, I'm all over that. No experience, 100 grand, drive around in nice cars, wear nice suits, that's me all over. So I went and got a job in real estate. And I started 10 kilometres away from where I lived because, let's face it, if you're going to screw up in real estate, you don't want to do it around people you know. So I did my first 12 months, and real estate in the late 90s was pretty simple. We rang up buyers, we booked them in, they came into the office, we put them in a car, and we drove these people around to every available listing in their price range. And when one of them turned around and said, "Yeah, I think I'll buy that," you raced them back to the office and signed them up. It wasn't rocket science. It was really good. You didn't have to be that smart because I wasn't that smart, as my university education proved. And I found that I was really good at it. So within the first 12 months, I was a top salesperson in my office. And 18 months after that, I got headhunted by the franchise in my home suburb. And I was quite nervous about doing that because you have to understand this suburb is a suburb that I grew up in. I went to school there and I'd played football there all my life, so I knew a heap of people. And I was nervous about making a fool of myself, but I went and took the job, and it just went really well. Once again, simple job. Before the internet, I think realestate.com, we all know about realestate.com.au, they had just released their commercial version of their product, and it was a brand new thing. And it was really interesting because my first boss said to me, "We're not going to get a realestate.com account because the internet's just a fad." At that point, he had about half the room that agreed with him. We look at it back now and we say, like, it's really funny that someone could say the internet's a fad. Like, it's so all-consuming in our lives these days. But that's what it was. So that's me. That's me when I first got into real estate. I was 25 years old. That's my first office. Within 12 months, because I found it was a job that I quite liked and quite enjoyed, I was made sales manager. And I was made sales manager of all these older guys, and they were been in real estate for 20 years, and it was quite daunting. But what I really got used to was people saying to me, "Don't change. Like, we've done it this way for our entire career, and there's no need to change anything." But we started changing stuff. Even back then, we started really aggressively using realestate.com.au. So I'm one of those guys that you can all hate that helped realestate.com.au get to the massive company they are now. But we won a lot of awards. I won a lot of awards, and our office won a lot of awards. We won our first REIV award for customer service. We're in the top 10 of our 50 office franchise, and I got a lot of listing and awards. After about 3 years, my head office came to me and they said, "Look, we'd like to have a chat to you. There's an office right next door to you, and it's going really, really bad. Would you like to take that over? We'll organise with your current business partner to sell out of where you are, and you can have this office all by yourself." And it was an opportunity not to be in a partnership. It was an opportunity to go out on my own, and we did that, and I did that for about 7 years. Now, I've always been someone who likes change. I really enjoy the idea of not just being stuck in a rut. So I started to come up with some ideas with my franchise, and my franchise was that very old school, don't change, it works, there's no need to change, everything's working fine, we're all making a mountain of money, we're all driving Mercedeses and Porsches and Maseratis, why change? And it got to a point where I guess I got a little bit disillusioned with my franchise. And to be fair, they got really disillusioned with me because I kept arguing with them. And eventually they rang me up one day and they said, "Can you come in and have a chat to us?" And I walked in and I walked straight into this high-level meeting with all the directors of the franchise there and the head office team. And they turned around to me and said, "Unless you change your ways and toe the line, you can get out of the franchise. You've got two choices. And I was like 31 at this stage. And I said to him, all right, fair enough. I'd had a really good real estate career at this point. Everything had gone quite well. And I towed the line for a couple of years because I was kind of addicted to the money. Anyone else get addicted to the money in real estate? It's good, drive nice cars. And we're not digging ditches. None of us are out there swinging sledgehammers. It's a hard job on your stress, but physically it's not hard a job. So I towed the line. Then a couple of years later, they did it again. And this time I just had enough of them. And I said, you know what? Get stuffed. I can do this without you. So I did. I went out and I opened my own office. I ditched the European car and I went and bought myself this bloody obnoxious supercharged V8 thing. And I rebranded as Stewart Real Estate. Now you can see the branding's not that distinct or different from what a normal real estate was. It was a pretty boring red and blue, but for the first time in my life, I was free. For the first time in my life, I didn't have a head office telling me what I had to do. I didn't have people telling me that I had to market a certain way. I didn't have people telling me that I was being unprofessional, because I have a tendency to be a little bit unprofessional at times. And that sold sign is a really good example. So I stuck a sold sign up and it said sold in, not that one, but the one before, said sold in 15 days, so many buyers through, so many hits on YouTube. And I said, we own the internet. And all the local real estate agents complained about me. And I got a phone call, believe it or not, from one of the, I think it was the REIV, and they said to me, Dave, you can't say you own the net. Like, it's ridiculous. That's just, it's misleading. So I stuck up another one in really, really small writing at the bottom. I said, we don't actually own the net. And I got away with it. And it started to really get me thinking that we didn't have to be cardboard cutouts. Like, we didn't have to follow the same rules as everyone else. About 18 months after I opened that office, we had a blinder of a first year. There was only 3 of us there, me and two people, and they operated as my buyer's agent. So, we were, I guess they call it a business unit. So we were a business unit, and we had a massive first year. And within 18 months, I had one of the large competitors come and make an offer. They wanted to buy out my company. They wanted to buy the rent roll. They wanted to buy our database. They wanted all my staff. And secretly, I think they just wanted to get rid of me. I think they were kind of keen to see me get away from real estate, because I was a little bit antagonistic to the real estate industry at that stage. And the money was really good. So I sold. And in all honesty, I thought that was me. I thought I was done with real estate. I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve. I'd won, heaps of plaques and awards, and I'd made good money. I was young, and I had beach houses and investment properties. And, I thought I'd just go and do something else. So I had a heap of job offers, and I said no to them all. And then I just went and did stuff that I wanted to do. I went and jumped out of a plane, and I found myself in 2014 at a conference in New York called In-Man Connect. And for those of you who went to the REIQ thing last night, any of you? Okay, no worries. Brad Inman was speaking at that, but he runs this tech-based conference in New York, and he does another one during the middle of the year in San Francisco. And it really struck me. This was a market that had just come out of the GFC in America, and some areas had lost value of 60, 70% in their area. And what really struck me was the agents that had flourished in this marketplace weren't the ones that followed the same old cardboard cutout, real estate approach. They were the ones that were aggressive. They were the ones that were innovative. They were the ones that started to take on social media and use it their own way. And they were the ones that took a really individual approach to real estate. And Glenn talks about it all the time. Don't just follow what your competitors are doing. Create your own mark, create your own personality. And there was one particular guy that really struck me. So his name was Zach, and he was from North Carolina, and he ran a company called Go Realty. And I was having dinner with him one night, and I said, what's your company look like, this type of stuff? And he said, we started 3 years ago. We've now got 4 offices. We've got 65 salespeople, and we dominate our area. And that was enough for me. So my wife and I hired a car in Manhattan, and I thought, screw it, I'm just going to go and see this bloke. So I jumped in the car, and we drove through however many states you've got to drive through in the States to get to North Carolina, and just landed on this guy's doorstep. And, you know, two random Australians turn up. Luckily, Australians are really well liked in America because he kind of just let me in. He let us in on his sales meeting. He let us in on, you know, following his sales staff around, and he showed us around all the different offices. And what really struck me was these guys didn't look like agents. You know, they were in North Carolina's the south of America, so they were wearing jeans and they were wearing those, you know, those puffy jackets that have no sleeve. I never really got the sleeveless jacket, but they were all wearing those. And they didn't turn up to work in BMWs and they didn't turn up to work in Mercedes. They rocked up in those bloody big SUVs that Americans drive, you know, the things that look like tanks. And they were really down to earth. You know, they ran community events that was all about branding. They ran stuff that was very, very specific to their marketplace. And it really excited me. You know, I looked at it and I thought, you know, real estate doesn't have to be done in such a narrow field of vision that I was so used to in Australia. So I spent a bit more time travelling through the States and landed back in Melbourne. And I was back in Melbourne and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start a real estate office, but I'm going to do it my way. It's not going to be a very corporate style office. It's not going to be an office that follows the same sort of rules. In fact, I don't actually care if this office makes money. I don't want to have the most amount of sales, and I don't want to have the most amount of sales staff, and I don't care how many listings we've got. But what I want to do is I want to experiment. I want to see how far I can push the boundaries. I want to see if I can get away with it. So we did. So we started this website. And it started off because I'd gone from, in my previous office, having, you know, a few sales staff. When we started the new one, there was only a couple of us. Just to give you a bit of insight, this office was set up like a cafe. It was just, I mean, it was, when I asked the guy to build it for me, and he said, you're building a real estate office, and he started doing the design. I said, no, make it a cafe, mate. Oh, I'm pretty sure he thought I'd lost my mind. But anyway, we did it. And we built this website because we wanted to create greater transparency in real estate. And the initial idea was really, really simple. You know, from our point of view, we just wanted to make sure that if a buyer had an urge to put an offer in on a property, whether it be at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock in the morning, I didn't want to have to make them jump through 1,000 hoops to do it. I wanted them to be able to just log in and do it from anywhere, at any time. And I wanted the vendor involved in it. I wanted the owner to get that information on the spot. Now, we all hear about these guys. Who is sick to death of Uber and trans disruptors and all that crap in real estate? We hear about it all the time. Hands up if you're sick of it. All right, let me tell you what these guys are. These guys are pretenders, and they get a lot of information, they get a lot of attention in our marketplace for one simple reason. They have been very, very good at convincing our consumers that you guys don't matter. They've been very good and very effective in marketing to the wider consumers that if you can stick a property on realestate.com and you can put a board up and you can get some basic collateral like a brochure and that type of stuff, that you can sell a house. Now, after 21 years in real estate, I'm here to tell you that's complete bullshit. You know, what we failed to do as an industry is we failed to really tell our consumers what we do. You know, we spend all of our time trying to compete with the other agents in the area. You know, we spend all of our time saying that we're better than agent A and we've got greater customer service than agent B. But what we don't do is tell our consumers what we do. And this is what we do. We bring a level of skill and ability to the real estate transaction that is just not easily transferable. We bring expertise. We've got the instincts. We bring empathy. We're adaptable to multiple situations, and we can manage the emotional turmoil of both a buyer and a vendor. Now, you may get the odd vendor. You may get the odd owner that has natural sales skill, and they may well be able to sell their own property. But the vast majority of people out there are shitty real estate agents, and they're bad salespeople. As real estate agents, you have made a profession of sales, and you are absolutely necessary to the real estate transaction, but you're not demonstrating that value as well as you could or as well as you should. So let's talk about Uber. And I'm as sick as Uber as the rest of you, but let's talk about where Uber made their inroads. So Uber didn't change the fact that you got to point A to point B. Uber didn't change the fact that you still got in a car to do it. Uber didn't change the fact that you had to pay for that service. What Uber changed was the transactional experience of the consumer. What Uber changed was you didn't have to get in a dirty, smelly, highly branded taxi and watch that freaking meter tick over every kilometre you drove. You didn't have to do that anymore. You got picked up in a nice, clean, private car. You know, it was like a mate was picking you up to take you where you needed to go. And then you got dropped off and you didn't have to fumble with coins or credit cards or any of that type of stuff. You just got out of the bloody car and off you went. And if you're polite, you said goodbye, but otherwise you just took off. And the money got automatically debited off your credit card, and that was it. So it substantially affected the experience, the transactional experience that the consumers had, and that's why they were so successful. And it doesn't get discussed enough why. Everyone likes to throw Uber around, but no one talks about what the difference was. So let's talk about the real estate transaction. I want to talk about a private sale first. So in a private sale, what we do is we get a buyer and a buyer says, yep, Dave, I really like the property. I'd like to buy that. We go, great. After we've returned their 14 phone calls and emails, because we don't answer phones, we're too busy, it always goes through to voicemail or text message. We get them in the office, we get them to fill out an absolute mountain of paperwork. And then we say to them, we'll call you back in 24 hours, if you're lucky. But in a lot of cases, it could be 2 or 3 days. And we've got our owners on the other end that are waiting for that information. But worse than that, even worse than that is if we've got multiple offers. What we do then is we say to someone, look, we've got multiple interest in this property. There's going to be a number of people that want to buy it. We're going to get you to write up your highest and your best offer, and we're going to present that to the owner. And they go, oh, that's great, Mr. Real Estate Agent. What do I have to pay? We just go, I don't know. Maybe consult your tarot cards. I don't know. You got a crystal ball? You know, I can't tell you. And as a professional in the real estate space, we're saying to these people, that's it. Not only do we say that we can't give them any indication of what the other offers might be, but we also say to them, you're not going to get any second chance. So if you miss out, bad luck. And they look at us. You've got to understand this, not from a real estate agent's point of view, but from a consumer's point of view. They look at us and they say, are you people on freaking drugs or what? Go and try that at a car dealer. Go and walk into a Ford dealer and say, that black Ford out the back, I really like that. And the salesperson goes, great. Yeah, how much is it, mate? I don't know. Take a stab in the dark. And if you don't get the right price, you're going to miss it and you're going to piss off. Like, you'd snot the bloke, wouldn't you? Like, seriously, you'd lay him out on the spot. But that's what we do. That's what we do in real estate. And then we say, okay, that's a pretty crappy way to sell houses. We don't really like that, so we're going to auction it. Now, for the auctioneers and the people that love auctions, I know there's people that really love auctions. I want to make this really clear. I'm an auctioneer. I have auctioned hundreds of properties. I'm not anti-auction, but I want you to look at it again from a consumer's point of view. So we say to our consumers, okay, we're going to, on a nominated date and time of my choosing, I'm going to get you to turn up to this property. I'm going to put you in a crowd of people that you don't know, who are generally fairly hostile to you because they're trying to intimidate you out of the transaction. And we're going to ask you to make decisions on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars worth of real estate, and we're going to ask you to do it in split seconds. Not only that, is we're going to take our owner and for some reason we're going to hide them away. We're going to stick them in the lounge room, and if they're really, really lucky, they can poke through and have a look out the window. And we're going to take our two principal participants in this transaction, and we're going to make them as uncomfortable as we possibly can and make it as hard for them as we possibly can, hope to get a result, and then bleat about this shit on social media for the next 3 days. Worse than that even, we take the buyer that we know loves this property, the buyer that we know would compete heavily for this property, and it suits them, and they've got the financial capacity to purchase it, but unfortunately they need a finance clause, or they can't pay 10% deposit on the day. and we turn around to these buyers. It sounds ridiculous when you say it, but it's what we do. We turn around to these buyers with all sincerity and with a completely straight face and absolutely believing what we're doing. We turn around to these buyers and we say, can you go and stand over there? Or in fact, stand way over there. In fact, just piss right off. Like, I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want you involved in my real estate transaction at all. And we reckon that's a really good way to sell property. Now, for those of you looking at me saying, this guy's a wanker, like I'm making a fortune using auctions, I say to you in all honesty, you are today. You absolutely are today. There is no doubt in my mind that if you're using auctions effectively, that you're making a lot of money. But what I want to say to you is the world is changing. Your consumers are changing. There is a mountain of money being invested in the tech space in real estate. There is a mountain of people who are trying to improve the consumer experience. The problem you have as agents is the vast majority of those people want you out of the transaction. They want to replace you because they're perpetuating this myth that you're not necessary, that they can do it without you. Now, I don't sell a lot of real estate these days. As Glenn said, our website's going quite well. We've got hundreds of agents around Australia and New Zealand that now currently use our site and use it to manage their offer process. We've been really, really firm. We don't offer this to for sale by owners. As a career agent, I firmly believe that a vendor's best interest is served by having an experienced and skilled negotiator handling this sale for them. And it's not just not negotiating the price. We hear agents all the time saying, but I get $10,000 more. It's so much more than that. And you guys know it if you can actually stop to think about it. You negotiate emotions. You negotiate a vendor that's freaking out. You're negotiating a buyer that thinks you're full of crap. You're negotiating all of these different aspects of the sale. You're negotiating a vendor when they need to bring a price down. You're negotiating how to do your marketing. So there's a massive amount of negotiation that software, I'm heavily involved in the tech side of real estate. Software will never replace you on that. But you have to stop these people telling our consumers that it can. And I say to agents all the time, you've got a couple of choices. If you stand on a beach and look at the tide coming in, you can either do one or two things. You can keep your eye on the water and you can take a few steps back and you can move away from the water and find yourself a nice, dry, safe place. Or you can turn your back on the tide and stay where you are. Two distinct and different things are going to happen with those choices. The person that moves away and takes strategic steps to make sure that they address the situation as it's presented to them will stay nice and safe and dry. The person who turns their back on the tide will get their feet wet, will get swamped with water and just looks like a dickhead. The thing is, and the point with that is, there is nothing that either one of those two people could have done that would have affected the tide coming in. And that is absolutely the same with real estate. You are going to have to adapt. You are going to have to change the experience that your consumers are having. Because if you don't, they will find an alternative. And many of those alternatives that are coming out in the marketplace don't involve you. But it doesn't mean that you have to just throw your hands in the air and say it's all too hard. If we start to utilize and we start to look at the real estate transaction, and we start to look at it from our consumers, and like the guy in North Carolina, we start to ask them what they want, and we start to build our model of business and the way that we work so that they are more inclusive, so that we're adapting to technology. See, technology at the moment in real estate, when we talk about innovation in real estate, everyone wants to talk about like VR tours and 3D floor plans and drone shots and all of that type of stuff. Like it's all surface marketing stuff. And that is only good for providing some sort of differentiation between you and another agent. It adds zero to the actual transactional experience. And if you go back and drill down to your consumers about what annoys them most about real estate, none of them, not a single one of them is going to put their hand in the air and say, His floor plan was black and white. His floor plan was colour. They had VR and they didn't. They don't care. They do not care about this stuff. This will get their attention, and this might help you get a listing, but it's only against other agents. What I'm asking you to do is start to understand that you have to protect your industry, and you have to start looking at the transactional experience that your consumers are having, and you have to start changing the way you do things. And you have to look at it and say, well, just because we've always done auctions, or just because we've always done multiple offers in a closed, signed, sealed envelope, doesn't mean that's the way that it has to be. There is technology available, and we're one of them. We offer a full offer management service so that offers can be managed. It's purely and exclusively available to agents. We do not offer this to for sale by owners. Had a phone call from a really large for sale by owner the other day. Said to me he was setting up a brand new one because everyone wants to set up brand new fixed price for sale by owner type stuff. And I said, get stuffed, mate. Not interested. So what do you do with this? Well, much like the person that stands and watches the tide comes in or the person that moves, you have a clear choice. But you have massive opportunities out there in the real estate space, particularly as far as technology goes right now. Never, ever before, and remember, I started in real estate in the late 90s, never before have you had access or as much access to your consumers that you have today. For $50, you can boost a post on Facebook and you can reach thousands of people. For $100, you can reach 5,000 people. Try doing that with any other medium. Try doing that with a local paper that costs you $1,000 for maybe 1,000 people to read it. So you have massive opportunities. The problem that we're having at the moment is the information that we're giving out there through these mediums it's not cutting through. It's noise. It's the same stuff because we're all saying the same stuff to the same consumers, and they just look at it and just go, there's only so many Rate My Agent awards you can see on Facebook. There are only so many agents jumping up and down on a Saturday afternoon in front of a sold sign. There are only so much of that stuff that people can cop before they just switch off. And that's the problem you have to cut through. You have to cut through the fact that they're switching off. You need to engage with your consumers at a level that they need you to engage in. You need to become part of your community and not people that stand outside of your community. But there are mountain opportunities. It just takes a little bit of courage. It takes the ability to look and say, just because we've done it and we've always done it this way, doesn't mean we always have to. If I'd listened to my first boss or my first partner in real estate and decided not to get a realestate.com.au account and not to use the internet because, by God, that thing was just a fad, we would have been 2 years behind. And that's the point. You'll eventually be forced to catch up. But you can play catch up in 3 years' time when everyone's already mastered this stuff and you're in a world of hurt. You can start it in 2 years' time at a point in time when you're really struggling, you've lost any sort of ability to create a point of difference. Or you can start now. And if you start now, you have the ability to be the first in your marketplace to go out there and start to offer that transactional change. And it's not just websites, it's do all your marketing stuff. I'm not here to talk to you about marketing. As far as the social medias and the marketing, there's plenty of other people out there that are better than that than me. But what my particular expertise and what my focus is on real estate is changing that transactional experience that people have and making sure that we can then start to really offer substantial, reasonable, and believable value back to these people that are really, really quickly deciding that we're not necessary. So we're out there. I think my wife's out there. I've stuck her behind the desk. I'll pay for that one later. But we're out there. We're running some demos today. Not going to actually make you buy a house, but if you want to see what it looks like and what it feels like, feel free to go out there and drop a card, see Lisa, drop your name in, and we'll add you in to a sale that we're going to run over the next day or so. You'll be able to make offers. Don't make offers in here while you're supposed to be listening to speakers, though, because Glenn will kill me. But feel free to jump in. We can add as many buyers in as you want. You can just start to get a feel of what it looks like and what it feels like to start to offer a slightly different service. We say to agents all the time, don't just jump in and run all of your sales through it. Jump in, run one, two, have a bit of a feel of, start to understand how this can be built into your marketing. We've got some really, really good agents that promote this stuff really well. In Queensland, Chris uses it. The guys at Ipswich Real Estate absolutely hammer their market with it, and they do pretty well. We've run sales through New Zealand, and we've run sales obviously in Victoria and over in Western Australia. It works in any market, because what we're not doing is introducing a new method of sale. All we're doing is introducing a very efficient and very easy to use communication system. So look, if you've got any questions, I've run out of time, and Naomi scares the crap out of me. I'm not going to run over time. So if you've got any questions, just come and see us. We'd love to have a chat to you and explain a little bit further. If you take nothing else out of today, please understand that there are people out there that are spending millions and millions and millions to try and take you out. And I want you to absolutely know this. I've dealt with enough agents around Australia now. I want you to really, really understand this. Don't let them convince you that you're not necessary. The real estate industry and the vendors of Australia will be worse off if there's a massive reduction in real estate agents. So thanks very much, guys. Hope you enjoy the day.